From out in the community to the prisons, there's no place she won't go. Hey, you know it. It's Miss Community Clovia. Keep it at community.
I am Miss Community Clovia, welcoming you to Community Conversations. And we are talking about pedestrian safety. Every step matters. This is a very important show. You want to turn us all the way up? I have my special guest joining us because you know I got to go to the source. She is Kalandra Moss, and I'm going to speak just like her. She is the Vulnerable Roadway User Program Manager with Virginia DMV Highway Safety Office. How you doing, Kalandra?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having us here, Clovia.
You're welcome. And we also have Kristin Pettway. Pettway, she is Executive Director of Drive Smart Virginia. How you doing?
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're so excited. We're going to get into this. Y'all got your shimmy shoulders going. We're talking about something that affects all of us, pedestrian safety. Whether you're behind the wheel, on foot, or just crossing the street, we all share the road and the responsibility to keep each other safe. Now, as we're talking about this, Kalandra, we were talking off air, so we're going to bring it to the airwaves. When we're walking, a lot of times folks are walking outdoors, right? And it doesn't matter the season. It can be really, really cold and you're walking outside. And I've seen it myself when I'm driving to an intersection and I see the person who's walking and they got the AirPods in and they just blow through the traffic sign because they're distracted, right?
Absolutely.
So does this relate to anything that we're talking about when it comes to pedestrians?
Absolutely. And that's one thing with pedestrian safety. We really want the pedestrians to be aware, to make sure that they own their own safety. Because when you're outside of a vehicle, but you're walking near traffic, you're the most vulnerable. You do not have this A-frame, this chassis, all the things that protect a driver inside a vehicle. So you being impacted in a crash as a pedestrian can have real impacts on your life. And you can stay safe by some of the things that we'll talk about later, but paying attention, being aware, avoiding distractions, and making sure that you're seen by drivers.
And what are some of the distractions as a walker? I know I just gave one example. What are some other distractions when you're on foot?
Absolutely, cell phones. We know that cell phones are a big distraction, whether you're listening to music, maybe you're just inside your head. It could also be you're scrolling, you're looking at videos, TikToks, or whatever. It could also be just something's on your mind. You had a hard day. You're thinking about an argument that you just had. You're walking to
Or an
work.
argument on your cell.
Or an argument on your cell. You know, you're thinking about what you have to do next. You're just inside your head and you're just not aware and alert and grounded to where you are.
Wow. So, Kristin, I want you to talk about how your organization works to make a difference when it comes to pedestrian safety, because this is a really, really important show. And as the holidays are moving in, for some reason, people drive faster. Have y'all noticed that?
Yeah, it's a dangerous time of year to drive. And that's unfortunate, right? Because we all want to be with our families at the holidays. We want everyone to get home safe and have a spot at the table for Thanksgiving and Christmas and all those great things. So Drive Smart Virginia is a nonprofit, and we are raising awareness about traffic safety all around Virginia. We want everyone to make it home safely. And, Kalandra talked a little bit about pedestrians' role, but drivers have a huge role as well. And Drive Smart really focuses on helping drivers to figure out, what are the safest habits that we should be adopting. And, we've kind of gotten away from that. We're a community and we have to serve each other, right? We can't always just worry about ourselves and how we're late for work or how we need to get there real quick or our kids are waiting for us. We have to think about the people around us. We all have a responsibility, right? We have to keep each other safe. And that goes for pedestrians, that goes for bicyclists, that goes for drivers. And it's about respecting everybody on the road has a right to be there.
Motorcyclists too.
Yep. Everybody's got a right to be there, right? We all have it doesn't matter how you're using the road. You have a right to be there. And we have to respect each other and protect each other. We're a community, right?
Yeah. Supposedly we're a community. When we're doing this. And again, when we think about drivers, we have so many we have lots of amenities in our cars now. Remember when we started driving and we had cell phones in our car? Rule number one, I'll call you when I get to my destination. Absolutely. So now you have hands-free in your vehicle, right? You pair that system with your USB and you're having full-blown conversations that you can hear in the other vehicle, when you pull up to the traffic light. But that's another distractor, wouldn't you think, Kristin?
Yeah, so we talk about, really you should put your phone on Do Not Disturb. It's a feature that almost every cell phone has. And essentially that allows you to have your space, right? When you're driving, you have that space to yourself to focus just on the road. Because a conversation, you're cognitively not in the drive, right? You are in the conversation. How many times have you all gotten to a destination and forgotten the last 5 miles? That is scary. You need your mind. You need your vision. You need your hands to think about the drive, to focus on the drive. There's a pedestrian there that wasn't supposed to be there. They don't always cross at crosswalks.
Nope.
We got to be ready for wherever they are. And you're cognitively not in it, it could be too late. And that's not a mistake. You made a bad decision by being on the phone. And we don't call crashes accidents. We call them crashes because most of the time there's somebody who has made a bad decision. And that is not a mistake. That is not an accident. We have to take it. We have to take responsibility.
So it's a crash and not an accident.
That's right. Yeah.
So I just pulled up to the traffic light and went through it just slightly. It's not an accident.
No, that's a bad decision.
It's something that could have been prevented.
Yep.
Why it matters, and we're having this conversation. What is pedestrian safety, and why is it such a big focus right now in Virginia, Calandra?
So pedestrian safety is. I work for the Virginia DMV's Highway Safety Office, and so I lead the charge on our most vulnerable road users. So that is going to include our pedestrians, but it also includes bicyclists, teen drivers, and mature drivers. Pedestrian by far is the area that I focus the most on, and it's because the numbers are there. As far as in 2025, from January 1st, of this year until September 30th, we've already had 92 pedestrians killed on Virginia roadways. Whoa. And we're not done with the year. In 2024, the total year, we had 126 pedestrians. So if you do the math, there's dozens of pedestrians that are still basically at risk. And again, it's up to the pedestrian and it's up to the driver to keep everyone on the roadway safe. So this issue, and we talk about the crashes, we've had over 1,000 crashes so far in 2025. Last year, we had almost 1,750 crashes. These are impacts, whether it's a car impacting with a person, whether it's a vehicle impacting with another vehicle, these things are happening. And as Kristin mentioned, these things are preventable. And a lot of the prevention comes from not being distracted, not being impaired. And we're going to talk a little bit later about alcohol impairment. That's another issue when it comes to pedestrian safety. A lot of people think, okay, I can go to the bar, I can do the things that I do. I'm not behind the wheel, but you're driving. I'm sorry, but you're walking. And maybe you're not cognitively there. You're impaired. You're not making the decisions.
You're walking while you've been a little intoxicated.
You're walking while
you just walk in the middle of the road.
And you're just walking and not really being alert and attentive as we instruct pedestrians to do. And we get it. I mean, we're pedestrians as well. Everyone at some point is a pedestrian. We walk out in traffic. Well, not walk out in traffic, but we engage with traffic. Anytime we're outside of a vehicle. We've done that before. Whether you just parked, you're on Broad Street and you're getting out your car and you're standing close to your car. That's your traffic. But we're all pedestrians. So we get it. We understand. We don't want to make it seem like you have to be strict and rigid and, completely on it 100% of the time, but it takes that one time. And it takes that one time for you not paying attention and the one time for the driver to not pay attention to cause something that could have been prevented.
Well, Calandra, you're giving us something to think about when you're looking at the crashes, and one death is too many.
Absolutely.
But 92 thus far this year since Jan 1?
Since September 30th, there's been 92.
Yeah, that's almost 100 families who don't have a loved one with them right now. And that's just... And it's
for
preventable.
Crashes or folks driving while distracted or intoxicated.
Right.
Could have been a medical emergency, anything.
Anything.
So we have to make sure, even if you're not feeling well, you shouldn't get behind the wheel.
That's a great point.
I don't think.
That's a great point.
We can't tell you how or, because if you're really not feeling well, you don't know what's happening. So I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. and it's right here in the midst of the holiday season.
Yeah.
And it's going to carry us through every month. It's not just this month, but this is going to be the biggest season. And as I mentioned before, Kristin, folks just drive fast during the holiday season. But anyway, we're going to take a break and come on back. We're going to talk about some of the main causes behind these crashes, the tragic ones. Stay close. This is Community Conversations. Welcome back to Community Conversations. I am Miss Community Clovia. And if you're listening to me and you're streaming and you're walking, be careful. Be careful out there on the roads. And I have to go to the source for you. Kalandra Moss is joining me, and also Kristin Pettway, and she's with Drive Smart. Now, Kristin, Kalandra was sharing some of the crashes, 92 pedestrian crashes, and they were tragically killed because of incidences out on the roads. So what are some of the main causes behind these tragic crashes? Yeah,
data is showing speed. People are driving too fast. It's been a problem ever since COVID. Speed has really been a real issue. Also, we talked about distraction. And we also talked about alcohol, and alcohol's on both ends. Drivers are still driving impaired. A lot of people, I'm out in the community, and people are like, oh, well, we've got that. Everyone knows drunk driving is dangerous. People aren't driving drunk anymore. We got Ubers, we got taxis. No, people are still driving drunk, and people are still out there engaging on the roadways behind the vehicle, and it's very dangerous. It causes a third of our deaths in the state of Virginia during driving crashes. But also, we're having a hard time with this, but pedestrians are also, a lot of times they're found, if they're 16 and over, they're found with alcohol in their system in fatal crashes. And we're telling people not to drive, right? But this is a dilemma, right? Because we're asking people not to drive. So then maybe they're doing the right thing and thinking that they're walking, but then it's not really safe for them to be walking on the road either when they're impaired. So, maybe a buddy system. Like, when we were little, we used to do the buddy system to go to the bathroom.
Well, if you're going to have the buddy system, who's going to carry you while you're walking?
Yeah, like maybe have a sober buddy to walk home with you, or, just we have to think of ways around this issue, right?
It's always something.
I know,
isn't
right?
it?
It's a difficult conversation to have, but we got to figure out something. So, if you can't take an Uber or whatnot, then, maybe have some sort of a sober buddy to walk you home, because we don't want people to be crashing.
Yeah.
And then, also we talked about visibility at nights, and that's when a lot of these pedestrian crashes are occurring, when it's hard to see them. We have a program what we call See and Be Seen. So, drivers need to see, so you got to have your lights on, and you need to be focused on the road, and then pedestrians need to be seen. So, if you're going to be walking at night and you're going to be interacting with drivers, you need to have some sort of, if you don't have a vest or high visibility thing, then maybe put on like the flashlight on your phone or something, so that just people can see you.
A guy ran across the street, and I didn't mean to cut across you, Kristin, because I just thought about it. And I forgot where I was, what part of town. He just ran in front of the car with all black on. And my daughter was like, how did you see that? And I said, I just saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But he just pretty much ran in front of the car, and he had on all black. So I really couldn't see him.
Right.
Exactly.
But
see and be seen.
saw him.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that we're thinking about that's been coming out lately, think about the difference in the cars that we've been driving the past 10, 15 years, right? They're getting bigger. We're doing SUVs, we're doing pickup trucks, we're not doing the little sedans anymore. And, that decreases your visibility of pedestrians, right? Because you're higher up, but also the impact that it takes on pedestrians. I mean, those are more deadly for a pedestrian if you're going to hit them with a bigger vehicle. So that's something to think about as well. And I know the car manufacturers are trying to do better with, pedestrian automatic braking systems and the lighting and all those kinds of things. But, we're still a long ways away from that being perfect. So,
yeah. And this is not a blame game or a shame on either one, whether you're a driver and or a pedestrian. But we have to find a common ground to come together. If you're going to be driving, just look around when you're approaching an intersection, or just know that some people jaywalk. They really do. You don't like it, but
absolutely.
They do.
And that's another thing when it comes to pedestrians. A lot of times pedestrians are, we want them to use the sidewalks. We want them to use crosswalks and intersections as much as possible. The reality is that in some communities, sidewalks are not available or they're not safe in and of themselves. Crosswalks might be a quarter mile, a half a mile between, and I'm just trying to get right here. The convenience store or my destination is right across. I'm not going to walk a quarter of a mile just to get to there. So it's a convenience thing, and I think that with pedestrians, they there is a measure of control. I can see a vehicle, I can move out the way, I can respond or react in time, and it just depends. It depends on how alert you are as a pedestrian, how alert the driver is in the vehicle. And, once again, these pedestrian fatalities and injuries are preventable, but it does take active practice on both the pedestrian and the driver.
And you can't judge how fast a car is going. You think you can. It was like, hey, the car is a few miles down the road, but you still can't judge it. And you don't know if you're going to be moved that fast.
Absolutely.
Especially with the speeding, like we talked about. I mean, drivers are going too fast, let's be honest. So, and the impact of that, we'll talk about that a little bit, but the impact of speed really does affect, if a pedestrian is going to be able to survive.
Well, you talk about it now then. That's an effect of, traffic crashes.
And actually, speed does have, and Kristin mentioned this earlier, has a huge impact. If a pedestrian, someone outside of a vehicle, is hit by a vehicle that's going 40 miles per hour, that does the same damage to their body as you pushing them off of a 5-foot story rooftop. And just think about that. 5 stories, about 50 feet.
With an impact
your
like
body,
that.
The impact to your body systems, to your bones, to your brain, all of that. That could be survivable. It could not be survivable. And even if you do survive, what is your life, like after that? So now we know that 73% of pedestrians that are hit by a car going 40 miles per hour will die or they will suffer serious injuries. 73%. And as Kristin mentioned, with these vehicles getting bigger and larger, and there's more weight behind the vehicle. And Clovia, you mentioned cars are driving faster. We're now at night, it's getting darker in the evenings earlier. So there's all these conditions that are not in favor of the pedestrian, especially someone who is as vulnerable being outside of the protection of a vehicle. Now, at 20 miles per hour, that statistic drops down to 13%. So instead of 73% at 40 miles per hour, if we drop your mileage down to 20 miles per hour, now it's 13% for pedestrian fatalities or serious injuries.
In 2024, talk about what happened in 2024. You have a stat here?
Yes. In 2024, nearly 1/3 of pedestrian crashes involved speed, distraction, or alcohol, which is what we've been talking about, pretty much this entire time. Speed, again, is one of the biggest influences. Now, the Virginia DMV does have a speed prevention activation. Some of our listeners may have seen our 54-foot ladder, huge yellow ladder at the Virginia State Fair.
Yeah.
Or some other places around town.
The Flying Squirrels, right?
It was the Flying Squirrels.
Oh,
right,
it's so
right.
cool. Yeah.
This summer, and we had a huge 54-foot ladder, and that was to visually represent the impact of speeding and the damage that it can cause on the human body. It served as a reminder that speeding can be just as devastating as pushing someone off of that rooftop. So, you look at this ladder, and it's like, okay, people would joke with us, oh, yeah, I would want to climb that ladder. Yeah, I want to, push someone off. Would you really? Would you really want to climb that ladder? And would you really want to push someone off of that ladder, knowing what it would do to them?
Yeah. And you can see it.
And you can,
but you don't see that when you're driving,
right?
You're trying to get to where you're going,
right?
Or the pedestrian who's trying to get to where they're going,
right?
And just trying to do that flash and get across the street as well. And we want to make sure it's a shared safety responsibility from the pedestrian to the driver. So what can both drivers and pedestrians do? Let's start with you, Kristin.
Yeah, I'll take the drivers. Condra, if you'll take the pedestrians, we'll kind of split it up. But for drivers, we've talked about it. We need to slow down. We need to especially be alert and slow down in neighborhoods and school zones. And when it's dark, it's even more of a reason to slow your roll, slow down a little bit. Be focused. Don't be distracted. If you see a pedestrian, and especially in a crosswalk, you stop for them. I don't know if you realize it, but it is the law. And here in Virginia, you stop for pedestrians in a crosswalk. But again, they might have to cross somewhere where there's crosswalk not crosswalk is not present or not convenient. So just be alert at all times and do your part to keep pedestrians safe.
All right, Calandra.
Absolutely. And Kristin brought up a lot of great points for the drivers. For the pedestrians, again, use those sidewalks and crosswalks whenever possible. We realize that they're not always there. Yeah. It's not always the safest option, but when it is, please use that. It keeps you off the road, and it keeps you in places where drivers can most expect you to be. Make eye contact with the driver before crossing. At night, this is going to be more difficult, but definitely in the daytime. And that just ensures that the driver sees you. You see them, but you know that they see you. Wear bright or reflective clothing. So like you mentioned, the person who walked across at night in all black clothing, and they're probably not thinking about, I'm leaving my house to go here or go there. You're not thinking about myself as a pedestrian on the roadway. But that's something that, again, pedestrian safety is an active practice. You have to actively think about this to keep yourself safe. Just throw on a bright hat or a bright, something that can be reflective. Turn that flashlight on your cell phone. I had a situation recently where I was driving at night and I only saw the flashlight on the person's phone, and that was good. Basically what kept them safe. Also, keep your attention on walking. Yes, you can, listen to music. Yes, you can still be fully human, but maybe only have that earbud in one ear so that you can have your senses, your best senses about you. So make sure you're listening, the things that you feel. Sometimes you can feel that kind of that weight of a vehicle, up and down.
I want to hear everything. Mm-hmm.
Right. Make sure you can visually see. You're not so in your head. And make sure you're walking where drivers can most expect you to be.
Okay. Well, we're almost going to wrap up. We have more good news. Stay vigilant and alert. We're talking about the drivers and the pedestrians as well. This is Community Conversation. Welcome back to Community Conversations. I am Miss Community Clovia, and I have my very special guest joining me on the show. And now this is for every day of our lives. If we're traveling, we're walking, whatever it is that we do, this show has been for you. Pedestrian safety, every step matters. And we have Calandra Moss, Vulnerable Roadway User Program Manager, Virginia DMV Highway Safety Office. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And we also have Kristin Pettway, Executive Director of Drive Smart Virginia. Thank you, ladies, for this wealth of information. And for folks who are just joining us, let's start with you, Calandra. Let's talk about some of the responsibilities and how we want to keep people safe, pedestrians.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to pedestrians, do your part to keep yourself safe. This is a shared responsibility, and we'll talk about the driver's responsibilities, but for pedestrians, wear those colors, wear those reflectives, be able to be seen. Make yourself be able to be seen at night, anytime you're walking around or near traffic. Mm-hmm. You cannot assume that a driver is going to see you. That driver could be distracted. That driver could have something on their mind. That driver could be listening to their music, just like you want to listen to your music. Mm-hmm. So make sure you're making eye contact. If you're able to see the driver, make sure you're visible. Make sure you're keeping your distractions to a minimum. If you're walking at night, if you have a cell phone with you, make sure you turn on that flashlight on the cell phone. Just a little bit of diligence, just a little bit of safety precautions could literally save your life.
Wow. Thank you, Calandra, for that. All right. Now, we put the onus on both of them, pedestrians and the drivers. All right, Kristin, let's talk about the responsibility of the driver.
That's right. There's, goes both ways. So for drivers, let's focus on the road. We don't need to have our distractions, our cell phones, our kids in the back telling us, Mommy, give me that, give me this, let's keep our focus on the road. Let's slow down, especially in neighborhoods, school zones at night. Let's keep our speed at an appropriate level. And then also let's drive sober, because alcohol is a big problem with pedestrian crashes.
She said that. Let's drive sober.
Sober.
Have you seen in your reports, Kristin, folks are speeding in school zones?
Yeah, I think a lot of people out there know now Richmond City has some of those speed cameras, and it's alarming how many people are getting caught speeding, because with those speed cameras in the school zones, Clovia, you've got to go 11 miles per hour over the speed limit before they're allowed to ticket you. And tens of thousands of drivers are doing this.
My goodness.
Isn't that crazy? At a school zone where we've got our most vulnerable people, right? Our little kids and their families. And people are going 11 miles per hour over the speed limit. So, there's a lot of discussion about, how much money is being made and stuff. Well, I want you to think about the fact that that many people are speeding in a school zone. The pillar of our community. You got to slow down. You got to pay attention. Yeah,
Kristin, thank you so much for all you're doing over at Drive
Thank
Smart.
you.
We appreciate you. So, if you're listening to the show, and I know you are because we're #1 award-winning community conversations, you can go to the website. If you want more information, go to drivesmartva.org. I'll wait. drivesmartva.org. Or you can go to dmvvirginia.gov. dmvvirginia.gov. You got the websites, but I want you to join us because Calandra and Kristin, they're going to be live at Radio 1's Community Health and Wellness Fair from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. on November 8th. It's a Saturday. Bring the entire family out. We're going to be at the Victory Theater and Event Center at 7903 Midlothian Turnpike, and we want to talk about it. We're heading into the holiday months, as Kristin was talking about it and Calandra was talking about it. Slow down, okay? And even if you're walking, you were like, look, I'm a pedestrian. I have the right of way. You can't if you have earbuds in both of your ears. You have to be able to listen around you, whether it's a fire truck. And I hear a lot of people when they're walking, like the fire trucks are down the street. I was like, hold on, wait, get back. And it's like, oh, my bad. But you had the earbuds in both of your ears. And these are just simple things to think about. And even in your vehicles, you're driving. Turn the music down a little bit and check your surroundings when you come to your four ways. But anyway, this has helped me today. I drive with safety now. But anyway, it helps all of us. Again, for more information, go to drivesmartva.org. That's drivesmartva.org or dmvvirginia.gov. Every step matters definitely. This has been Community Conversations, and I am Community Clovia.
Whether it's collecting toys for families in need, sending kids to camp for the summer, raising funds for breast cancer, or keeping us up to date with everything community, then you must be talking about Miss Community Clovia.
I love that, she's there for me when I need her to be.